volunteers of the Guild all led to a profitable venture that was of great benefit to Holy Cross and has continued to be a tribute to Mary Lou's foresight, determination, and dedication. As a result of her successful efforts, she was called upon to assist in setting up gift shops of Holy Cross sister hospitals. A 3-day seminar was arranged in Boise, Idaho for Mary Lou to teach the group how to buy, stock, display, and generally run a gift shop. In 1974, she was appointed to the Holy Cross Hospital Board of Trustees. She was honored at the 25th anniversary of the Hospital Guild in 1986 for unmeasurable giving of herself and her time without reservation. From 1958 to 1986, Mary Lou volunteered over 30,000 hours. Yeah, I think that's deserving of an applause. Mary Lou was invited in 1963 to join the National Charity League of San Fernando Valley, a mother-daughter organization with a commitment to community service, leadership, development, and cultural experiences. The group aims to foster mother-daughter relationships by serving communities together. Mary Lou was the chairman for the NCL Guild, Gilded Lily Luncheon and Fashion Show. She planned every aspect of the event, from musical entertainment, centerpieces, favors, and door prizes. The fashion show format for the evolution of fashion from that time, from the turn of the century to 1968, was forward-thinking and unique for its time. At that time, it was the largest ladies' luncheon in the history of the San Fernando Valley, with over 800 women attending. The event was a smashing success with Mary Lou Lyons' touch, and this led to a new image for the National Charity League of San Fernando Valley and what the group was capable of doing. Mary Lou enjoyed her 20-year membership and valued the relationships she made with this entire group. In 1969, while raising a family and with her many volunteering commitments, she still found the time to study and received her real estate license from the state of California. This later helped in her dealing with family businesses. Mary Lou was also an excellent cook, and I hope you all had the experience of tasting her food. She was quite pleased to have earned certificates from Le Gourmet French Cooking School under the tutelage of Chef Gregoire Laboche. Did I get it? All right. From 1972 to 1974. Setting a beautiful table and entertaining family and friends with her cooking skills, it brought her great joy and rave reviews that I can attest to. Mary Lou assisted Charles's transition from his practice of law to the development of a golf club manufacturing business in 1973. That business grew to 700 employees, frequent trips developing business into Europe, Japan, and all of Asia, of which Mary Lou was always a very important part and the best traveling partner. After living in Granada Hills for 27 years, Mary Lou and Charles moved to Lakewood, California in 1980 to be closer to the business operations that were located in Paramount. Later on in life, she managed Charlie Lyons Properties and their portfolio of real estate and development projects. She guided the business with thoughtful leadership, incredibly sound decision-making, and a detailed eye. At 90 years old, she was still working and driving herself to the office right up until the COVID pandemic shut down. Mary Lou was an exceptional woman with an amazing memory. She was an engaging storyteller. She loved a good party. There are not enough beautiful adjectives in any language to adequately describe how very special and accomplished Mary Lou was. Above all, family was always the most important part of Mary Lou's life. It was the core of who she was and who she loved with all of her heart. She was a devoted daughter, wife, mother, nana, sister, aunt, cousin, and friend. She was loved, cherished, and adored by her family and countless friends. She could always be counted on to be in attendance for every golf tournament, every horse show, every art show, every performance, and yes, every dance recital for her children and grandchildren. and was always cheering loudly. The first one on her feet with a standing ovation for those she loved the most. She was a constant present, and life will not be the same without her. In writing about Mary Lou, her husband Charles said, 7 years at a fine university have taught me that the greatest professors cannot teach love, generosity, character, judgment, and wisdom. Wherever they come from, Mary Lou holds a doctorate in those areas of human experience. Mary Lou Lyons was preceded in death by her husband of 67 years, Charles John Lyons Jr., in 2017. She is survived by her 3 children, daughter Celeste Angel Lyons Macer, Dr. George A. Macer Jr., her sons Charles or Chucky John Lyons III, and Cynthia Peterson Lyons, and George Ove Lyons. Her grandchildren, Charles John Lyons IV and Nicole Lean Lyons, Arianne Marie Lyons O'Brien and Colin O'Brien, Christiana Mary Lou Macer Garcia and Daniel Garcia, Marina Lynn Macer Aldulemi and Jesse Aldulemi, and Emily Sue Macer Struxma and Wade Struxma. Her great-grandchildren, Olivia Lyons, Sloan O'Brien, Eloise Lyons, Lucas Garcia, and Micah Garcia. Her sister, Lindy Harris Deere, her sisters-in-law, Helene Lyons Bedrosian, Richard Bedrosian, Thelma Lyons Kay, and Raymond Kay, her cousin, Beverly Harris Contrell, and Bill Contrell. Mary Lou lived a blessed life, one that is worth celebrating today. As we continue in our celebration, I would like to invite up cousin Dennis Agajanian.
I like that, Cousin Dennis. On behalf of my wife, Joan Agajanian Quinn, and Chris Agajanian and J.C. Agajanian Jr., I'm honored to be here with you all. Mary Lou picked this song. Last time I played the song was to her at a wedding not too long ago. But she was certainly a believer in Jesus Christ, and I thank God for her. To the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ears, Son of God discloses, and he walks with me and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks with the sound of his voice. It's so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me in my heart is ringing. And he walks with me and he talks with me. He tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. has ever known. Thank you.
We're kissing cousins, in case you didn't know. There's a lot of us in this room that are that way. So God's given me a lot of gifts, but public speaking is not one of them. So I'm going to do my best to get through this. My mother has been preparing me for this day since I was in high school. During my high school years, I started writing with an interest in journalism. I learned that every life has a story, and we should tell their stories. My mother's life story is quite remarkable, as you just heard. Life is a journey, and hers was lived with devotion, maturity, generosity, caring, vision, guiding, counseling, mentoring, directing, commitment, discipline, disappointments, pain, compassion, truth, wisdom, and most of all, love. There truly are not enough adjectives to describe my mama. She was my mother, my best friend, my confidant, my sounding board, my first call for everything in life, and the first person I ever loved. There was truly something special between us. I'm not sure what you call it. Clairvoyance, ESP, sixth sense, ability to read people, a second sight, precognition. Whatever it was, she had it. She told me things that would happen to me a year before they happened. I would introduce her to friends of mine, and when we would get home, she would tell me how the relationship would go from beginning to end. She told me which friends would be lifetime friends. Others, she would warn me not to trust. When I told her I was pregnant for the third time, she did this, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're not going to carry this baby to term." And I said, "Mama, that is the cruelest thing you have ever said to me." And she said, "Oh, I know, I'm sorry, but that's just what I felt." At 17 weeks, I miscarried that baby. Of course, she was right. She understood the pain since she had miscarried twice, and she helped me through mine. When I fell at cheer camp, being the pep squad advisor for 44 girls, I fell and I broke both wrists. Not one, but both. One of my best friends was with me, and because I had 2 broken wrists, my cell phone rang, and my girlfriend answered the phone, and the voice was my mother, and she said, "What's wrong?" "I know something is wrong. What's wrong?" My daddy was my hero. My mama was my protector. She was wise beyond her years and gifted in so many ways. She was giving of her time and knowledge and generous with her resources. She had an uncanny ability to know what other people's weaknesses were and what their needs were, and she would always try to help. She made profound differences in many lives. She often worried she had not done enough. She had a deep sense of gratitude for those that had helped her. When she went away to school at age 12, she formed a special bond with Sister Benedictine, one of her teachers, who became a mother figure. She stayed in touch with her all of Sister Benedictine's life. When I made a trip to Texas in 1984, I had the joy of meeting Sister Benedictine and delivering a gift from my mother. I got to tour the school and see where my mother lived during her junior and senior high school years. As a member of the Board of Trustees and speaking about her 30,000 volunteer hours at Providence Holy Cross Hospital, my mom said, "I'm trying in some way to pay back for all the love and kindness the Sisters of St. Mary of Our Lady of Victory School gave to me when I most needed it most." My mother had an amazing memory, and she never forgot people or their kindnesses. She religiously stayed in touch with friends and family her entire life. She was extraordinarily thoughtful, kind, and considerate. She never forgot birthdays and would call and sing. Her gift list for birthdays and Christmas were extensive. She was forgiving, but not forgetful. She wasn't exempt from disappointments and painful experiences in her life. She said she never got over the pain of her parents' divorce when she was 10 years old. If she was unhappy with you or didn't like you, you knew it. My mother was a collector. Jewelry, Lalique, Baccarat, Waterford, Heron, Goebel Hummels, Cebus, Belique, sterling silver, silver serving pieces, and napkin rings, Sheila paintings, Bev Doolittle artwork, and bronze sculptures. Her Native American heritage led her to pieces of American Indian and Western art. Her father, Ove Harris, was a jeweler, so she had knowledge and a great appreciation for fine jewelry. Most of all, she was a collector of relationships. She held the blessings of those many relationships in her heart, and she reflected about them often. In going through her things, I found notes that she had left for me in random places. Amongst her tablecloths in her Bombay chest, she wrote, "The heart has reason that reason does not understand." She was blessed with physical beauty, stunning actually, a model's body. She knew a lot about diets, but not for herself. Diets were part of my daddy's life. But she was the one watching for him. If she thought she needed to lose a pound or two, she just wouldn't eat bread the next day or so. She was fanatical about brushing her teeth 3 times a day with, mind you, 3 different toothbrushes for morning, noon, and night. Women at the beauty salon didn't believe that her blonde hair was her natural color, and they would get angry when she wouldn't share her hair color secret. Her stylist said, "Go ahead, tell them you haven't had a nose job. They won't believe that either." She had an amazing sense of style. Lucky me, I fit in her clothes. And these are her clothes. She got dressed every morning, from sunglasses to shoes, she matched. She loved beautiful clothes, and her colorful clothing reflected her life. Her favorite color was lavender. A little secret, underneath those beautiful clothes, she wore some really fabulous underwear. Can I get some water? Can you bring me my water? Oh, thanks. Shopping was a profession for my mother. Hall of Fame, gold medal, triple crown, champion shopper. She could not be beat. She regularly showed up at my house with bags of clothes, especially underwear, for me, my 3 daughters, and even my husband. It got to a point that I would say, "Mom, we don't need this," to which she would reply, "Who said anything about need? We're way past need, Celeste." If she saw someone wearing something that was not flattering, she would say, "Another house without a mirror." Or, "Whoever told her that looked good lied." Shopping trips with Mom were not an option. They were a requirement and an all-day event that included lunch and happened several times a year. My mother was incredibly organized. Everything had a place. She was meticulous with her clothing. Designer clothes are in bags, labeled with what is in it and the date purchase. Shoes are in boxes with date. Everything in the kitchen has a place. She has dishes and beautiful china for every holiday, and I mean every holiday. How many people do you know that have a set of dishes for St. Patrick's Day? My mama does. She enjoyed luxuries and was grateful to be able to afford nice things. If she received something that was extravagant, she would randomly say, get ready for it, "That's like farting against silk sheets." She was blessed with great health and hated taking medication. The only issue she consistently complained about was constipation. Her quoted remedy was, let me get this right, Buddy Bubble's Little Bowel Busters, the pill that will if you won't. Prepare for the big blowout. She would not chew gum in public. She said that that was not something ladies do. She got caught chewing gum several times in boarding school and had to write a penance, which she passed on to me. Gum-chewing girls and cud-chewing cows are alike some way, yet different somehow. Oh, yes, the intelligent look on the cow. She loved to entertain and create memories. Traditions are stories that families write together, and Mama was our editor-in-chief. Every holiday included lots of family and any friend that needed a place to celebrate. She made birthdays special, Easter joyfully fun, Thanksgiving a time of gratitude, Christmas magical, and it's no wonder that the entire country, of course, celebrated her birthday with a huge national blast of fireworks and celebration. She loved to dance and was generally the life of the party. When she turned 40, she didn't want to celebrate that dreaded age. So instead, she threw herself awake. She dressed from head to toe in black, wore a black veil over her face, carried a cane, a beautiful handkerchief, and greeted the guests at the door saying, "Oh, Lordy, 40, 40. It was a big success. She loved music. There was always music playing in our home. Parties at our house always included music and singing around our player piano. She had a beautiful soprano singing voice and knew the words to every song. In conversation, she would often quote lyrics. Some of her favorites were Ella Fitzgerald, Johnny Mathis, Dinah Washington, Billy Eckstine, Nancy Wilson, and the Bee Gees, among other greats. She had a great love of movies and Broadway musicals. In 1938, she watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs over 40 times because her great-aunt Mary owned the movie house in Elk City, and she just planted herself there. She started taking me to theater when I was 10 years old and instilled that appreciation in me, which has turned into one of my passions. Her favorite Broadway musicals were The Most Happy Fella, Hello, Dolly, and The Sound of Music. Our home was always open. She fed a lot of my friends. There was usually steak, roast beef, or pot roast on our table at least 4 times a week. Daddy didn't like chicken. My friends would often show up just before dinner and would always get invited to stay with us. Our swimming pool was also a very busy place. There were lots of outdoor barbecues and swim parties. My parents had a custom-built barbecue carved out of lava stone. It was a massive tiki man holding the grill box with a stone table on the other side. My mother's favorite food, however, was Mexican. She loved beans, any kind of beans. Growing up in Oklahoma, she ate a lot of beans. She said she never met a bad bean. She would make beans and salad as a meal for dinner. My dad asked, "Where's the rest of the meal?" She was insulted. So after that, we usually had beans for dinner when Daddy wasn't home. When she and my dad were first married, she had no idea how to cook. She didn't know a cake would rise. She baked him a chocolate cake and filled the pan to the top. She said, well, the inside of the oven looked like Carlsbad Caverns, and she had quite a mess to clean. She did become a good cook, first learning from my dad's mother, and then became extremely proficient in the kitchen after spending a few years with Chef Gregoire at Le Gourmet French Cooking School. My mother got her real estate license. She listed a house and made the sale quickly. My dad was so impressed with her work and was so happy He told her if she could keep it up, he would be able to spend less time in his law office and play more golf. Her reply was, well, then why do I need you? That was her first and final sale. In later years, she came back to work managing our family industrial and commercial properties and was a brilliant businesswoman. My mom's friends would often talk about men flirting with them. My mom would always be a little bit frustrated and say, no men flirt with me. And it's hard to believe since she was so gorgeous. So I have this group of girlfriends, and we celebrate our birthdays together over lunch. My mom always loved being included, and she always said she felt like she should pay admission to be included because of our conversations. One year, we were celebrating my birthday at a very nice restaurant in Long Beach. We were laughing, having fun, and the gentleman at the next table noticed us and asked why we were there. I told him it was my birthday, and this was something my girlfriends and my mom always did for each other, and I made a little bit of small talk with him. Pretty soon, a very expensive bottle of champagne arrived at our table from the gentleman at the next table. My girlfriends now started whispering and snickering, and that this older, attractive, but older gentleman was trying to pick up on me. And they warned me, they said, be careful what you say. And, there was that kind of talk. I turned around and I thanked him and I said, I just love champagne. Thank you so much. To which he replied, I just love your mother. My girlfriends were screaming with laughter as I said to him, so does my father. So much for men never flirting with my mother. Her advice to my single girlfriends was, marry a man who loves you more than you love him. Mama used to say, I've been old my whole life. It's kind of hard to believe she used old to describe herself. A better term might have been mature. She was emotionally enlightened and was independent and responsible at a very young age. She did not like growing old. She said, the golden years are bullshit. Don't believe it. It's just patch, patch, patch. The past couple of years after her diagnosis with Parkinson's disease, aging was not easy for my mom. It really cramped her style not to go shopping and do the things that were part of her routine. Ecclesiastes 7:4 says, a wise person thinks a lot about death. I started out by saying my mom has been preparing me for this day since I was in high school because she always thought she was going to die young. This celebration today is one of her wishes, and I believe she is watching. I don't have one of the brochures, so on one of you hold up the brochure. So the note on the back of this brochure is from her, not from me. 20 years ago, she came home from a friend's funeral, and she brought me her friend's folder. And she said, you see this, pointing to the back? I want this on mine. I said, oh, okay, Mom. The song Dennis just sang, she requested and said, and Dennis needs to sing it. The orchids on your tables are what she wanted. She was the orchid queen or orchid whisperer. She has several huge pots of Cymbidium orchids in her garden of every color. It is not unusual for her pots to have 20 to 30 orchid spikes, big spikes of orchids on them. She regularly would cut them and give them to family and friends. She told me that she had a box of special cards and notes from family and friends that she had saved and wanted buried with her, along with her Bible that was stuffed with memorial folders. She told me her casket was going to be very full, and I laughed. Well, the joke was on me. There was more than a box of cards. There were several, and her casket was extremely full. Her sister, my Aunt Lindy, said, "Well, she never traveled light." Shortly after her 91st birthday, I sat down and reviewed some of the things with her that I told you about, all the clairvoyant things that she had been right about over the years. She literally was never wrong. I then reminded her that she had told me she was always going to die, that she felt she was always going to die young. And she said, "Yes, I did." I said, "Well, I'm here to tell you today it's the only thing you have ever been wrong about." She laughed and she said, "That is really funny. You need to tell that at my celebration of life." My last 5 days with my mother were very special. Dying is not easy, but my experience with her was beautiful, and I learned so much. I never realized how hard it was for her to leave me. We always just think about our loss and our grief, and how painful it is to lose the ones we love, and not how difficult it is for them. We never have enough time with each other, no matter the age. There are always unexpressed things we wish we could say or could ask. Grief is love. It is deep because it matches the depth of our love. Grief shows how big our love is. Our love never dies, and their love for us never dies. When we tell stories of our loved ones, when we mention their name, we feel their love, and we can share it. We should carry them with us in all that we do, using their love as the source. I believe it is what they would want. That love is limitless. There is no end to it, and there never should be. In going through my mother's things, I found this, that my grandmother Lula, her mother, wrote about her grandmother that had raised her. Quote, "We loved her, yes, we loved her. But the angels loved her more, and they have gently called her to yonder shining shore. The golden gates were open, a gentle voice said, 'Come,' and with farewell sweetly, she peacefully entered home. We miss her voice and footsteps, but she is o'er her earthly strife. Death is but a promotion, a call to higher life. Growing up, my mom had us in church and Sunday school almost every Sunday. I was given a great Christian foundation because of her dedication and consistency. She was crazy in love with my dad from the day she met him, and she dearly missed him. She loved all of us incredibly well, always cared for us, all of my grandparents, my 3 aunties and their families. The Bible verse I feel best exemplifies my mother is Proverbs 31:28-29. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Mama, I treasure our memories. They are the souvenirs of life. I will always miss you. I will always love you, not for just a day, not for just an hour, not for just a year, but always. And I know you love me more. Thank you.
So much for the 30-minute program. Well, I'm going to try to talk a little bit from a different perspective. So my mom, everyone knows, she was raised in most people don't know, she was raised in a Baptist church. So when her parents divorced at the age of 12, by her own choice, she went away to all-girls Catholic boarding school that was run by nuns. So those nuns were old school. They had taken the vow of poverty, and they were genuine in their teachings of benevolent excellence. My mom was from modest means. In those days, if your parents were divorced, it was a black mark on your lineage, which was very difficult to overcome. Her sister, my Aunt Lindy, was a half generation younger, and she told stories that my mom would travel alone at the age of 12, 13 years old by train and bus. And she would recall that. She also remembered a lot about personals, personalities and whatnot. So working with her father-in-law, make no mistake about it, my mom was a tough cookie. My dad's parents were against her marriage. She wasn't Armenian. She was from a broken home. She had no money. She drove an old car that she had hand-painted it herself, some old dog car. And my grandfather, he had a third-grade education, but he had a lot of ranches. He was driving, 50,000 miles a year in those days, back and forth from El Centro all the way up to the Central Valley. And what he would do is he'd pick my mom up on Friday. This is when they were engaged, before they were married. And he'd drive her to Buena Park to visit Dad. And she told me that she would cry the whole way, because my grandfather would just browbeat her to make sure she knew he was going to be tough on her, and who does she think she is, and, you know, the whole thing. But when my dad started law school, my parents moved to an apartment just north of the USC campus off of Hoover. And my grandfather, when he found out that she could run numbers, you know, she had been doing payroll for over 1,000 employees in Bakersfield or Delano area before they got married, before she met my dad. So when my grandfather knew that she had that ability, he brought her in. So she would come in to drive from the school to Buena Park, work with my grandfather, and then go back and help my dad. My dad wasn't a great student, but she made him a great student. She knew how to study and be organized and whatnot. They used to tell stories. In those days, only 1/3 of all attorneys that entered law school made it, and the other 2/3 flunked out. And she made sure that Dad got it done. And so she was a great coach and whatnot. Now, my Armenian grandfather only had a 3rd grade education, but she gave him credit for teaching her how to do business, how to treat people, how to be a great business person, how to lead the family. Family comes first. And she would tell stories about how he was never comfortable unless he was owed everything to everybody. So what they would do is every week, he'd sit down with my mom, and they'd go through the bills and they'd triage them. It didn't matter when they got the bill. They would figure out, who they were going to pay. And my grandfather called everybody baby, so he'd call her, baby, pay that one. That man, he needs that, or baby, that man, he can wait. And she would go through the whole thing. And then every once in a while, they'd run short of cash. So my grandfather wouldn't go do the banking. He would send her in. So she'd go in with her hat in hand and make promises to the bankers and plead with them and do whatever she had to do. And but I think it really changed, I think, the way that she looked at things, because as soon as they started doing business and they had a little bit of money, just the opposite. My mother would pay every bill the day she got it. She was insistent about that, and she was it wasn't about price. It was always about relationships, being loyal, and that's what carried her. And they tried to own everything they could for cash. So everything was going along pretty good, and then in around 1993. They got hit with a triple whammy because the S&L crisis hit, and banking changed. Loans were called. They had a really bad partnership with a dishonest, very close friend that cheated them. And then in the golf business, things changed because it went towards metal wood technology that we didn't really have. That was going to require a lot of money. So unfortunately, they had to shut it down. They liquidated some things, but fortunately, they were pretty much in an all-cash position, so that carried them. If they would have been leveraged like my grandfather, they wouldn't have made it. And so she was kind of philosophical about the whole thing. She believed, that the only person you can control is yourself. And when things would go bad, she wouldn't blame other people. She said, the only person you should blame is yourself. So if you got into a bad situation, don't try to sugarcoat it. It's your own fault. And let's see. She also believed in it was okay to leave money on the table. She didn't believe in trying to get the last nickel. And they always believed that, you want to leave some money on the table so that people will want to come back and do business with you. Okay, parenting, this is a good one. At a very young age, she taught us all. She taught me how to be polite, proper etiquette, table manners, open the door for ladies and older people, always address my friends' parents, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, always walk on the outside of the sidewalk when you're walking with women, put them on the inside, all those things. And she was a very visual person. She had read the Dale Carnegie book, so later in life I had taken that class and I kind of understood a little bit more about the power of creating visual pictures of the future to sell ideology or your product or whatever. So she taught me never to lie. So it was a terrifying experience. I told a lie when I was 6 years old, and she caught it. I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was not the first time that I had fibbed. So she called me not a liar. You were a big fat liar, okay? And then she told me she was going to go with me to the church school and stand up in front of the whole class to tell my teacher and the classmates that I was a big fat liar and that they should never believe a word I said, okay? It didn't take her very long to get me believing that she was actually going to do it. So then she gets all dressed up beautifully, and she continues this charade all the way to school in the car, and I'm crying my eyes out, begging her not to do it. And she questioned me, why shouldn't I, right? So now she got me thinking, I don't have an answer for that. So she pulls up to the curb, and she cut a deal. She made me agree never to tell a lie, and if I did that she would not publicly embarrass me. And she made her point, and I never forget that. Okay, here's a good one. She knew all my friends, and she loved them, and she kind of was a little quirky. She did not like a man who had facial hair or had long hair, okay? So the way she would handle it is she had this way of doing it. First, she'd blow smoke up the guy's ass and tell him what a good-looking guy he was, right? And so now the guy is like, wow, you know. And then she would voice her opinion about how much better looking he would be if he would shave and do all these things. And there's a few of my friends here that I was talking about earlier that I saw, so you need to take notice on this, okay? And then she'd go into wardrobe suggestions, you know, everything she thought that she could kind of, you know, make you a better person. That was her deal. I'm down to the last page here. Business, I think she was a very straightforward person. She liked doing business with all the cards face up, makes things move quickly. If people know that you're a straightforward person, your reputation will carry you and you'll get deals done, whereas if you're a sneak, it's not going to happen. So that was something I learned right away from her, and she made it fun. She would always joke around. A business situation would come up, and she'd teach by recalling some relevant past experience that went ugly, shake her head, how it was a bad thing for her, make her point, and then that she had made mistakes too. You know, she was a human, you know, not perfect. And then, but she was very savvy, and she had that ability to read people, which Celeste talked about. My dad would never make a decision without consulting her. He'd always go home, talk it over with her, and then he'd come back the next day, they'd have a decision. But that was a testament of how important they were to each other. She really loved all of you, you know, knowing all your family details. She wanted that connection. And if anybody ever had problems, she would go out of her way to lend a helping hand. She wasn't hard-nosed. If she believed if the person was sincere and talented and maybe they had fallen on hard times, she'd help them up. And I'm trying not to get too visual here because I'll lose it. Anyway, my routine the last few years was I had long commutes, so I'd usually call her up and talk about everything that happened during the day. And man, she's a deal junkie. She wanted to know everything about everything. And she was just a great fan, always giving me good advice, and I think I miss that the most. That's it.
Wow. I'm George O. Lyons. I'm Mary Lou and Charlie's youngest son and my sister and brother's little brother. And my sister will always let me know that I'm her little brother. I've thought for the last, I don't know, what is it, almost 3 months since she's passed, about what I would want to say to everyone. And the first and foremost thing that I want to say is thank you to everyone. This is an incredible testimony to my mother. My loss is traumatic, but it's no greater than anybody else's loss. We have all lost such an important person in our life, and my mother was that person. She certainly touched all of us in such an incredible way. In the end of her life, the most important people to her were her caregivers. And I got to witness it firsthand because I live in Las Vegas and I would come back, and when I stay in Los Angeles, I would stay in Lakewood at her house. And I got to watch the caregiving that came to her. Her main caregiver, Bobby Winio, is not able to be here this evening or this afternoon, but I want to thank him. Our housekeeper of 41 years who's here today, Consuelo Infante. My sister's house ladies who have taken care of her family forever and took great care of my mother. Chanrith Nonora and Maria Santos. Her caregivers who are here today, Arcito Arce Ejan Santos, I hope I'm saying that correct, Arce. Alan Lagarda, Lou Galang, Mark Vlandé, and Gilbert Nazareth. Her doctors, Dr. Grant Uba, and my brother-in-law, Dr. George Macer, who took such incredible care of my mother through everything that she needed. Our business people who were integrally involved with my mother, Kathy Graham, Ricardo Villa, Mark Pettis, Deanie Wong, everyone at Wines Inc., and everybody at River City Bank. All of you people made a huge difference for my mother, and I want to express my gratitude to all of you. I also want to express my gratitude to my family, because all of you took such incredible care of her. And I don't need to name you by name, you know who you are. So I thank you for that, but I want to echo every single word that my sister said. My mother was my best friend, my main confidant, the person who I went to first for everything. And I could be absolutely honest with her about everything. And, if you know me, you know what honest really means in that sense. And my mother didn't judge me. She would go, "Oh, George, really?" But, she didn't judge me. She gave sound advice. But there's been so much that's been shared about her, but one of the things that I want to share is her love for sports. I called my mother basically every single day, about 6 p.m. And it's really wild because every single day around 6 p.m. I feel like I need to make a phone call to this day. And it's very strange. And I think that all of you who spoke to her on a regular basis probably feel the same way. You know, you want to make that phone call, and you know she's listening. But she loved her Trojans, she loved her Clippers, and she loved her Angels specifically. And I would call her each day and say, "Mom, you know the Clippers are coming on 6-9-2, or the Angels are coming on." And when we talk about it, and she'd say, "Oh, I just love that Ohtani," and you know she would go on and on. She knew her sports like unbelievable. And when there was a day when there was no game, she would say, "You know, I'm bored," you know. And especially during COVID, she was like, "This is the pits, you know. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's like Bobby and I are just watching old John Wayne movies now." And it's like, she just loved her sports. So that's one of the things that I really miss, is because every time there's a game coming on, I think to myself, "Oh God, she's not there." So I call Celeste, and she says, "I don't care about the Clippers." So, I don't want to stand up here and give a bunch of anecdotes, because it's not what you want to hear, because you're going to hear so much today. And I know my grandfather always used to say, "Get on with it. It's like enough of the speeches." So really what I want to do is just express my gratitude to everybody, and thank you all for being here and for this great tribute to my mother. It's very special. So, Celeste, you wanted me to give one anecdote. No, you come up here and say it again, because this is a good one, and she wanted me to say this, and I thought, no, you can say it.
So when my dad was in law school, my mom was supporting him. She would drive every day. She would drop Dad off at the law school at SC and then drive to Buena Park. And so she was supporting him. And she had him on a strict allowance of $5 a week. And he was really pissed off about that. And he would beg her for more money, because they would play cards when in between studying, and their bets were a penny. And so it got to a point that he finally said to her, he said, "When I make money, I'm going to put you on a $5 a week budget and see how you like it." That never happened.
Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciate you all being here. And yeah, Mary Lou, fight on. You want me to leave this water up here for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Charles Lyons IV. I'm Mary Lou's grandson. I'm going to try and keep this brief, but I just wanted to talk to you guys about what I'm going to miss most about Mary Lou. As you all know, she was somebody with an amazing presence, and what some of you might not remember was that sometimes her presence would stay in a room after she was gone. I grew up in Lakewood, 2 blocks away from her and 3 blocks away from Bud and Celeste. And if she came over to the house and we'd come home from school, you could still smell her perfume in the room. And recently I came back home with some stuff from Nana's house, and my daughter, Olivia, she mentioned, it smells like Nana here. And, you know, she was a big inspiration for me. You go to her house, it was like a museum. There was beautiful art everywhere, and she was the person that I went to about with my own art and told her, you know, I really want to pursue this. And she was very supportive of me. She came to all my art shows, and I miss, you know, her presence. She was somebody that I would go to first for everything. When I first was starting to date Nicole, she was the first person that I brought Nicole to, and I told Nana, I said, Nana, this is the girl I'm going to marry. And she was like, oh, okay, all right. And she got all very excited. But she was my best friend, and so was Papa too. But this is about Nana today, and just, you know, there's something that we all lost today, and that we're celebrating today. So that's all I wanted to say. And now I'd like to introduce my sister, Arianne Lyons O'Brien.
There's two. And I'm going to keep it short so I don't pee. Hi, everyone. I'm Ari. Nana actually named me after, she said that if she had another girl, that she wanted to name her after Arianne from Audrey Hepburn in Love in the Afternoon. So that's where my name came from. So intelligent, hardworking, kind-hearted, gregarious, admirable, and as Nana would say, smart as whip. She was loved by all and known as Nana to those close to her. If it were not for her, we would not nearly be as successful as what we are today in life and business. She was our original bookkeeper, peacekeeper, and manager. Mary Lou taught us to share our success, but to always stay humble and remember your beginnings. Hepzibah, for example, her old painted car. She also taught us too good is no good, and you can't fry the same egg twice. She was one of my best friends that I couldn't wait to update and share news with. She lived vicariously through us grandkids, especially at the end. Nana offered her unwavering support but strong advice. She will be missed but never forgotten. In the words of Dr. Seuss, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christiana, one of Mary Lou's granddaughters. Nana was truly one of a kind and a remarkable woman. She was kind, generous, wise, strong, and fiercely loyal, among so many other things. So much of who I am today is because of her and what she taught me. I am blessed to have a lifetime of beautiful memories of her, so it is impossible to condense all of my feelings into one tribute. However, in the time since she left us, I have spent a lot of time thinking about her and the things that I loved most about her, and I have arrived at the following. She was always your biggest fan. This was true for me and for so many others, family, friends, acquaintances, and sometimes even people she had just met or didn't know personally. She was an enthusiastic supporter, always the first one on her feet with a standing ovation at the end of a performance, and gushing afterwards about how wonderful the event was, often saying, "You didn't miss a trick, honey." She was always there for everything that mattered and even for the little things that didn't matter quite as much. She always believed with 100% conviction that I could accomplish and be anything I wanted, and encouraged me along my life's journey with wisdom, guidance, and particularly when things didn't go my way. She was the best person to call with news, good or bad. If it was good news, she would respond with genuine joy and excitement, celebrating with you, and saying that she knew all along that it was going to happen. If it was bad news, she would usually say, "It's their loss, honey," and that something better was coming. In my own life, that has almost always been true. Somehow, she always knew. She also had a true gift for hospitality and for making people feel welcomed in her presence. Many of you know that holidays are a big deal in our family, and it was not uncommon for holiday gatherings to exceed 50 people. This was partially because anyone who didn't have a place to go was always welcome with our family. And Nana would make a point to meet and get to know the new people, making them feel welcome and special. In most cases, she even had a gift for them as well. This warmth and welcoming spirit were particularly appreciated by my husband Daniel and Marina and Emily's husbands Jesse and Wade, as it is not easy to be the newcomer in our very large and boisterous family, especially when you're the new boyfriend. But Nana made them feel comfortable and like they belonged. We learned later that she made a point to do this because it had been difficult for her when she was first integrated into Papa's very big Armenian family, so she knew how it felt to be the newcomer and wanted to ease those feelings for others. She loved her family more than anything in the world. Truly, family was of utmost importance to her, and she did everything in her power to make us a strong, united unit. She did not have an easy family life growing up. She told me several times how painful her parents' divorce was for her, and I know that motivated her to make a difference for her children and grandchildren. She achieved that, and her legacy of love will continue to bless our family for generations to come. She went out of her way to make each of us feel special, and there are many examples of this over the years, but one that stands out to me is how she celebrated Valentine's Day. I never dated anyone in high school, much to her disappointment. So she knew that I wouldn't be receiving flowers or anything during the school day. So every year, she would come to the school with flowers and a gift and have them delivered to me during school so that I would feel special and loved. One year, she brought the biggest teddy bear you have ever seen. It was seriously almost as big as me. And I carried that thing with me to class for the rest of the day. And she got such a kick out of hearing the story afterwards when I called to thank her for it. On top of that, every year, each one of us would receive a hand-packed box of See's candy filled with all of our favorites. She made sure she knew what our favorites were so that we would get exactly what we wanted. In fact, one year she even brought the forms from See's for each of us to fill out, and then kept them in a file so she'd have them year after year to take to the store with her. After Papa passed away, I made sure to return the favor with flowers and her favorite candy on Valentine's Day so that she would be reminded of how special and loved she was as well. In the time since she passed, I have had several moments where I wish I could talk to her and get her advice. She always knew the right thing to say or do and gave trustworthy, thoughtful advice. In those interactions, she would listen patiently to everything you had to say and then think for as long as necessary before responding. It was always good advice, and I will miss her wise guidance and the steadfast presence it had in my life. Even though she may not be there to respond to my questions in person, I know she is near. There have been a few times over the past several months where I have felt her presence so strongly. One instance in particular stands out. In our kitchen, we have a Google display, and we will often use it to play music for our son, Lucas. Now that he can talk, he likes to ask the Google himself to play certain songs. And one day in February, about a week after my son Micah was born, Lucas asked it to play something. I have no idea what, but instead of playing whatever he asked for, it played Hello, Mary Lou by Ricky Nelson. My eyes welled up with tears, knowing it was her way of letting us know she was near and watching over us, particularly as we transitioned into life as a family of 4. I already miss her so much. Life will not be the same without her, but she taught us well, and I will carry that with me for the rest of my days. I know she will continue to watch over us and cheer us on from her heavenly home. Until we meet again, Nana, I love you more.
What a joy to have been loved by this strong force of a woman. For those of you who don't know me, I am Marina. the middle of the Mesa girls. Nana loved to refer to me as Pinky, so I was sure to wear some of her pink clothes in her honor today. Nana is wrapped around every fiber of my being, so I didn't quite need her coat to have her with me today. She was more than a grandmother to me and all of her grandchildren. She was my inspiration, and she has been the greatest source of good in my life. I know she is ingrained in parts of me that I have yet to discover. I'm the sensitive one in this family, the crier, and I get that from her. She used to refer to herself as peepee eyes, and it always made us laugh through the flowing tears. She was tender-hearted and sensitive in the same ways that I am, and she saw that sameness in me and showed me how to move through the world, recognizing that what so many can view as a weakness was my secret strength. Nana had a sixth sense that you've already heard about. She knew the minute we weren't okay, and she called us immediately. She was there to pick us up the minute we were overwhelmed with heartache. She always knew what to say to calm my tears. The seasons of my life that are filled with the most painful and the most joyous memories have her shining through as my platinum lining, not just silver, honey. With Nana, you always got the best. She was perfect. She obviously had some flaws, but they were close to impossible to find. She was classic in every way. I never had to guess if something was wrong or right. I could always, and always did, call on her. Nana always knew best. She always will. We never had to wonder if Nana would be there for us in any way. She just always was. She was dedicated to her family each and every day of her life. She loved us so well. Every life she came in contact with, she blessed. She took care of everyone and was the most generous woman. Nana always told me I was a good writer and that I needed to write more. So a few years back, I started too. When she started to fade, I was searching for everything I'd written about her, and I'd love to share this story with you if you'd humor me and listen just a little longer. My Nana, my mother's mother, is the most put-together woman I have ever met. She matches her panties to her bra to her outfit, and her shoes and her purse are consistently coordinated. She flows through a room with grace. She exudes confidence. She smiles with the most magical twinkle in her eye. Nana is the most generous human I have ever met. She works hard and shares the benefits that shower down on her. Never in my life have I met someone so honest, sometimes to a fault. And yet people receive her honesty and hold her opinions highly with respect. Nana is 88 years old now, and life has gotten a little harder. All of her best friends have passed away, her husband of 67 years being the most recent. Her health is pretty good, but not amazing. So she has a night nurse to help her move through the house at night and early in the morning while her body is tired and starting to wake. Nana didn't love the idea of a caregiver coming to stay with her for a while. And now she has come to adore her nurses, and it has become a comfort to have someone there with her each night as she falls asleep. I tease her that this is her wild phase of life, spending the nights with different men every few days. How risque. Last week, her favorite nurse, Bobby, was held up with some family complications, and a few hours before bedtime, he had to cancel. I was at my parents' house when Nana called, a little distraught and definitely nervous to stay alone for the first night in some time. When I offered to stay with her, she perked up fast and said, "It'll be a sleepover." Just like when I was a kid. Except this time, I got to share her luxurious California king bed and make sure she was comfortable through the night. When we climbed into bed, Nana looked over at me and told me how proud she was of me, how her grandchildren are the pride and joy of her life, and she loves us so much. Cue my waterworks, as if I've done much worthy of proud praise. I'm stable, but mostly because of the foundation my family laid, teaching me about hard work. Sorry, I lost my spot. Before we fell asleep, Nana paused for a few minutes in silence and meekly asked, "Marina, am I a good person?" I quickly said, "Oh, Nana, you're the best person I know." You are generous, loving, kind, genuine, and you are the rock of our family. I don't know how you do it all, and I'm so grateful that you do." She blinked and received my words and followed with, "Well, I hope I do enough." My brain was tickled with shock. The best person I know, who is 88 and shouldn't give two shits about what anyone thinks at this point in life, has insecure moments where she feels like she could do more for all of us that she loves. I realized in that moment, somehow, we are all the same. We all have moments where we become unsure of ourselves and the lives we've built. We seek validation in moments we aren't proud of, and we need each other to build up our hearts with strength that gets us through to the next day. We all, no matter the age, need to hear that we are on track, that we are loved, and that we are doing well. No matter what, it's going to be okay. That was the end of what I wrote back then, but the story continues. Nana drifted off to sleep, and despite being the classiest 88-year-old alive, she still had that old lady snore as she slept, you know, just kind of inhaling. So finally, I fell asleep to Nana's sweet nasal orchestrations, and a few hours later, I woke up in a panic because I didn't hear anything. Being the weirdo, loving granddaughter that I am, I reached my hand up and across, trying to feel her breathing, and she sleepily said, "I'm fine, honey, go back to bed." Poor thing saw my hand about to attack in the middle of the night. So that's my story. I'll miss the way she smelled. I'll miss hearing her unique phrases. I'm so grateful for her beautiful life that was so long and her spirit that will forever stay within each of us that loved her. Nana carried the torch that lit my path for so many years. I guess now it's our turn to carry our own lights and to continue her traditions, to love and take care of those we cherish, to help light the way of kindness and grace for others. A wise man has always told the three of us girls that we come from a long line of strong women, and it could not be more true. Nana was so strong, and I'm so glad that she was ours.
It's hard going last, but I'm used to it. We're almost there. I know we're all hungry, but in sitting down to write this, I realized it's truly impossible to put into a few minutes of words just how special my relationship to Nana was and how much she means to me. My relationship with her helped build me into the woman I am today, and I'm forever grateful to have had her for 30 years of my life, not just as Nana, but as a mentor, confidant, and friend, like so many others have said. From the time I was a little girl, my relationship with Nana was a really special one. Since I'm the youngest of the three of us, I spent lots of quality time with her, being picked up and dropped off from one place to another, while my mom was busy taking care of my sisters. In these early car rides, Nana would tell me stories, and as many of you have experienced, she was the ultimate storyteller. She also made sure to impart any wisdom onto me that she could at such a young age. She taught me so many important life lessons, like how to pursue my dreams, to be self-sufficient, and, my favorite, how to save for a rainy day. At the time we had this particular rainy day conversation, I was about 5 years old and didn't really understand what the concept meant. Apparently, I told Nana, "So does this mean I save my money and then on a rainy day we go shopping?" Of course, that wasn't the lesson at all, but she loved to tell that story as I got older. Ultimately, I did end up understanding what it meant to save for a rainy day, and I'll always have her voice in my head when it comes to managing my finances. I think as a young girl, I thought that rainy day money was meant to be spent at a mall on a day when it was raining, because attending shopping malls, particularly Nordstrom and a little girl's dress store called Luann's, with Nana happened on a pretty frequent occasion. Nana loved fashion, and she loved to shop. I wore this neon suit in honor of her today after a photo that I keep in my bathroom of her wearing head-to-toe green. It's out of my comfort zone, and I don't have the sunglasses to match, but I think she would have loved it. She would take us girls shopping for any occasion. You've heard how much she loved shopping. We would try on clothes, and she would sit down in a chair in the dressing room and always give her opinion. Usually it was either fabulous or what she would refer to as a sad sack. Sad sack meant usually take it off and put it in the no pile. We always had the best time shopping for hours and laughing in the dressing rooms, and her love for fashion inspired both Marina and I to pursue careers in the fashion industry as fit models, where our jobs are literally to try on clothes for a living and give feedback on the fit and functionality of garments. Nana loved that we worked in fashion, and I spent so many car rides to and from seeing clients, talking to her on the phone, as we did pretty daily, to catch up and chat. Even at age 90, she would still ask what the current trends were in the fashion industry, and she loved to hear funny stories of the things that would happen to us during our daily fittings. When the pandemic began and Nana could no longer drive around or go shopping, a few of my clients started shipping clothing to me in boxes. We would meet virtually on Zoom while I tried on clothes at home, and at the time, Nana was quarantining with us in Lake Arrowhead. She had so much fun attending my virtual fitting, looking at all the new styles that were coming out for fall. As Nana's health continued to decline during the pandemic, I would go over to her house and visit her. She would frequently comment on what I was wearing, give me cash, and say, "Will you go get me one of those? I like those shoes. Will you go buy that for me?" I could tell she really missed shopping, but she never failed to look through the latest edition of Vogue and earmark a page with something she loved. She was a vibrant woman, as I know many of you have experienced firsthand. She was a matriarch in every sense of the word. She was smart, witty, independent, and cared deeply for people and for the whole world. When she turned 90, it was July 4th of 2020, when COVID was rampant and people were encouraged to stay home. To make her birthday special, I put together a video of friends and family that sent in messages, telling stories, memories, and wishing her blessings. To no surprise, the video ended up being over an hour long. I knew Nana was special to so many people prior to that, but I think it really just hit me how many people she influenced on a daily basis and took care of. In the last weeks of her life, I thought it might be special to play that video for her once again. Although she no longer had the energy to speak, I know it meant so much to her to see many of your messages and listen to them and reflect on just how many people loved her. At a similar time during COVID, I began working at Charlie Lyons Properties, helping to manage the properties Nana and Papa owned and passed down to us. As the person who now opened the mail, I began to notice how many different nonprofits sent her mail. And the only way they get your address is if you donate to them. I was simultaneously finishing my master's in arts leadership with a strong emphasis on nonprofit management, and was just in awe of how many different organizations she supported. It was then that I started keeping track, and to this day, I've counted more than 20 different charities and organizations that she frequently supported. If you want a list, I can read them all, but some of the highlights are tons of hospitals, Our Rot Home, the Special Olympics, Swim with Mike, Valley Christian, the UNLV Foundation. Nana was a woman who practiced charity not for only incredible organizations, but she practiced empathy and charity for the people in her life. She took care of so many people without asking for anything in return, and it brought her joy to do so. She set the ultimate example of what philanthropy means, and I promised her that I would carry on that legacy that she started. Her example of generosity was a gift to me and a gift to us all. So much of who she was made me into the woman I am today, and I'm so grateful for the love and support she so freely gave. These few memories and stories I've shared can't even begin to tip the iceberg of how influential she was in my life and in all of our lives. She always provided the best listening ear and thoughtful, sound advice. She encouraged me to be independent and gave me both courage and opportunity to pursue any dream I had. She would frequently tell me throughout my time in college and graduate school that a good education is the one thing that can never be taken away from you. Although she never got the chance to pursue her collegiate education at Stanford like she hoped, Nana was smart as a whip and as well-spoken and well-mannered as they come. It brings me so much joy to see so many people in this room whose lives she's touched. We really are the lucky ones who get to call her family or friend. There won't be a day that goes by that I don't think of her, miss her, and long to have her silly antics back. But I'm confident that I gained the best guardian angel, and one day we'll meet again. For now, I'll leave you with Nana's favorite exit song. So long, farewell, I'll be just saying goodbye. And I'd like to introduce Uncle Dennis Agajanian to come back to the stage.
This song is very short. Could you plug that in? Well, I was 16 years old, was driving. Mary Lou came up and she said, your face doesn't look really good. And I said, well, I'm not good looking, but I got a personality. That's all that matters. Who cares? But she said, I want you to come to Beverly Hills to a doctor friend of mine. And I said, really? I said, look, I'm on a kind of a fixed income. And she goes, you come and see my doctor, take care of those pimples on your face. And I did. They gave me something like tetracycline or something like that. And I was so moved. No one had ever really done that for me before. And I thank God for her. And we all are here celebrating a time of her life. And Celeste gave me a song that's a musical. And I do a musical like a sea walrus in a china cabinet. But anything for Celeste, and these words are really precious, and a lot of work on the guitar doing the piano part. How often is someone concerned with the tiniest thread of your life? Concerned with whatever you feel, whatever you touch. Look over there. Look over there. Somebody cares that much. How often does somebody sense you need them without being told? You have a hurt in your heart you're too proud to disclose. Look over there. Look over there. Somebody cares and knows. When your spins too fast, your bubbles will burst. Someone puts themselves last, so you could come first. So count all the loves who have loved you from now to the end of your life. And when you have added the loves that loved you before, look over there. Look over there. Somebody loves you. Somebody loves Thank you. I love you all.
All right. Thanks, Dennis. And with that, if you would join me in prayer. Our Father and our God, we come before you this afternoon and we just say thank you. Thank you for the amazing gift of sharing your daughter, Mary Lou, with all of us. We thank you, God, for your faithfulness that was exemplified throughout her life. We're thankful for the opportunities that we had to meet you in our conversations and our relationships with her. We thank you, God, for all of the stories that were shared today. Times where you spoke to us through Mary Lou and where we just saw your beauty just shine through her. God, we thank you that her story is not complete. While she is with you, and we look forward to being with her again, we know that as you live through us, her memories will live through us as well. And we pray, Father God, that you would be with us this afternoon while we continue to tell the stories of Mary Lou and your faithfulness. We pray, Father God, that you would be with us now as we continue in our celebration. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
Believe it or not, this is a buffet. So I don't know exactly how we're going to do this, but we're going in the other room. Is that right? And there's plates over there, and then we're going to schlep. Is that right? Is that right? Is that right? Okay. Onward, Christian soldiers.